All right, what is going on, guys? I know we were having some technical difficulties the last couple of rounds, but third time is a charm. And it is my pleasure to welcome on our guest for today. Of course, we have Mr. William Sadler joining us once again to talk the 10th anniversary of the Indy, the historian. Mr. Sadler, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. And how are you, Brandon?
I'm good. So without further ado, as I said, we were having some technical difficulties. I appreciate your patience. Like I don't know what's going on today. I don't know if it's a full moon happening today. What's going on? But we're here, and we're going to dive in. The first thing that I wanted to talk about first is with this being the 10th anniversary of the historian. Can you talk a bit about just getting involved in and of itself, and looking back and reflecting on just those components that looking back on now, those things perhaps that you saw in the script that really attracted you to the role here.
I think primarily the thing that did me to the role was I like the idea of playing a man who had been successful in his career, who was respected, who had a position of some, at this university. He published a book that was a textbook on history and so on. He had some success in his life and had established himself in this position. And all of a sudden there's a young historian challenging challenging everything he has, challenging his position, challenging his ideas, challenging his research, and a rival for this young student's affections. But he's a genuinely flawed character, brilliant in some ways, but lonely and angry. He lives with his father, and his father is dying. His father's a pain in the ass, but he's dying, and he's dealing with that at the same time that he's dealing with this young historian who's trying to muscle in on his job, his tenure, his position. And at one point he I don't think I'm giving anything away. He gets drunk, and this young woman who is a student of his, he makes inappropriate advances to her, and I mean really inappropriate, and something akin to, it's almost rape, but the young professor comes in and beats the shit out of him. So he now has, he's losing everything that he ever had. And I found that when I read the script, I thought that was an interesting dynamic, because the process of aging is also you gain wisdom, you gain some things you gain.
There's a lot of
But there's a lot of,
acceptance. There's a lot of acceptance.
but the, but there's a lot of but there's a lot of things in your life that get smaller and smaller and smaller. You know, you can't do what you used to do. You can't be who you used to be. You know, you're not the young buck anymore leading the parade. Now you're cleaning up after the elephants. And anyway, I like the script because it felt real, and it felt like something I could sink my teeth into, because I'm a man of a certain age, and these things are universal. You know, there's always there are young actors coming along, you know, taking all the glory, taking all the roles. They're young, you know. It happens. It's just a part of it's a part of life, and I thought the script captured that really, really kind of in a dramatic way. That and this guy is holding on so tight to what he has, to his tenure as a professor and his position in the university, that he's so jealous. I mean, there are lots of really fun colors to play.
Absolutely.
And I've never killed, didn't kill anyone.
Right. That would be a first with a lot of the characters that you portrayed, and speaking further to those colors that you were mentioning, just thinking of just that I guess that conflict between Rhodes and Hadley. There's very much just that idea of two sides of the same coin, where you just as you say, you have the veteran professor there, and then you have like the up and coming professor that is on their way, so to speak. But to start the film, I feel that Rhodes is very much on a trajectory that Hadley ends up completing, and you know because of certain relationships that he has, it allows him to veer off and to go on a different path, that he otherwise wouldn't have gone on, and that would have, had he not had those relationships or those interactions with, whether it's with his students, whether it's with his other colleagues that are trying to show him some other alternatives of how he can get through to his students, that you can say that he was destined to eventually arrive at the same road that Hadley finds himself on. So, can you talk a bit about that? Because I feel like it's so fascinating where at the top of the film, I was going to say, at the top of the film, Rhodes, he's very, and I talked with Miles about this on our prior show, how he made certain choices, acting wise, to really show how I guess stringent or kind of uptight that character was to begin with, where like even his neurotic nature even shapes a lot of the physical traits that he has, where like there's this whole bit that he has, even with the, I guess you could call it the Pepto, that is throughout the entire film, and he eventually kind of releases himself from that issue by the end, with the interaction with a student that he has, of knowing, oh, okay, I am getting through to someone. It's not all for naught. Like I am making a difference, and it allows him to kind of like relax and let go of that. So could you? I don't know how deeply you talked with Miles about that, of having kind of that dichotomy between both of your characters, where I feel like Rhodes has that respect on some level to Hadley and that reverence for Hadley, but at the same time, wants to
Yeah.
steer his own, or make his own path, and he's very much in danger of going, arriving where Hadley is at by the end of this film.
I I think he might.
Well,
Miles might disagree with me, but I think Rhodes, I think the character of Rhodes probably ends up um, in a similar situation. You know,
yes,
he's chasing he's chasing the same things. He's he wants to be a fan. He wants to be respected as a historian. He's published a book. Um, he's gunning for Hadley's position. Um, and eventually Hadley is going to get squeezed out. That's just how it works. Um, I don't know that he I don't know that he ends up in a different place because he's better adjusted um, with his love life, because Hadley apparently doesn't have one, um,
yeah,
which is which is that's a tension that he carries his whole life.
yes,
you know I'm sure there's resentment. I'm sure there's anger. I'm sure there's like, you know, why not me? Why not? Um, but and like I said, when he gets a chance, he gets drunk and he misreads this young woman's um, compliments.
yes,
She, she's nice to him, and he needs it so badly that he misreads it completely, and 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 goes way too far, way too fast, you know um and it causes his downfall.
yeah,
Like, not it's he doesn't go to jail for it, but he doesn't but I think he steps down as the head of the department,
yeah.
um, to avoid the scandal. Uh, but as a film, I thought, as a character, I thought this was a fascinating human, full of strengths, things that he does well,
Yeah,
and and uh, and flaws. You know, his jealousy of this young man, instead of embracing the next generation that's coming in and helping them find a place. And instead of there being some graceful way to do this, he fights it. um, he sees Rhodes as a rival, and he's not going to let go, um, until he has to.
definitely,
um,
definitely. I was going to say, in speaking further about what you were mentioning about the script, and commenting, again, on just the colors, and those various aspects of your character, and even other characters that uh, that your character interacts with, that Hadley interacts with. I found that the script very much plants seeds, and planting seeds, it gives you, whether it's foreshadowing things to come, or even talking about, giving another angle or perspective on the relationships that you have in the story. If you look closely, they're in there, and so as an actor, I'm sure that's very rewarding to have something like that to be able to creatively chew on, versus trying trying to muster as much as you can on your own. So, can you talk a bit about that? Because there were a couple of things that I had mentioned previously, as I said, when I had Miles on, that I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing here. I see what you're doing there. Like, and talking about visual things that are there throughout the film. Like there is a moment in which, even though it's there just for the sake of providing, a sense of where we are, to help explain to the audience where we are. We do have a look at a book that's known as The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire, which I'm like, okay. Like, if we're looking very closely in terms of what we have with the overall story, some of those things can, very much, carry over, or a lot of the historical figures that we have, or at least even some of the discussions that we have, that a lot of the professors give some color, if you will, to what's actually going on in the film in and of itself. So
I find there's a moment when there's a student who I think it's early in the
yeah,
film that I'm explaining the
yes,
crucifixion
yes, yeah,
to
yeah,
this student, and there are lots of ways to explain the crucifixion and why the Romans did it this way and so on. But
brother,
that but
forget about it.
but that isn't what he does.
No,
He makes he's he makes this young student go through the the motions. He makes the young student uh, imagine himself in that place. He scares the bejesus out of this poor kid,
yeah,
and he does it, but he does it for it's a it, it's a hint, it's a clue about who, and it was in the script. Um, it's a it says a lot about who he that
yeah,
he's that um, sadistic, um, that resent young idiots coming in who don't know anything. Um, there's he's not a he, he's he's not a nice man. Um, although I think my favorite scene in the whole movie was driving driving down to the ocean to dump my father's ashes in the ocean, and then hanging out at this amusement park
yeah,
and
yes,
just wandering around this amusement park, and just for a moment forgetting who he was, forgetting who he forgetting all that he's gone, all that's come before, and just be a kid again for just a minute, and then let go of his father.
yeah,
um, was a I liked the I liked that about it. I thought that was a uh, it was a saving. It saved this character from just being a shit all the way through.
fair, yeah,
It,
yeah,
it's hard not to look at him and say, oh my God, he could do this to that kid. Then he's so mean to Rhodes. Then he's so mean to the girl. Then it's like, where what am I
what
supposed to like
redeeming,
about
and yeah, what redeeming thing do we have there? Which I feel, brings things full circle, because it allows, just as you said, it allows Hadley to really reflect, perhaps in that time earlier in his career, where things were quite different, and he wasn't as bitter or as cynical as he seems to be now. So I feel like that's a great segue into just the idea just that idea of self-sabotage. Because I want to pick your brain about that in terms of
Okay.
you have. I was going to say we have a lot of characters where they feel like they're lacking something, and if you really dig down and see what they have in their lives, they actually have. And I talked again also with Miles about this, which was fascinating to get his perspective, but I wanted to get yours. Just that idea of self-sabotage, where many of the characters are seeking something. The student that we have, if you know student is, she's seeking to earn her degree and to move forward in her career. With Rhodes, he's trying to plant himself within his career and kind of cement himself in his career. And with Hadley, he's trying to recapture a lot of the a lot of the accolades that he had thus far. But if you really look closely with some of the things that transpire in the film, they have everything that they need. Like the Rhodes, he has the admiration. Like he gets along with his colleagues. They rave about the book that he wrote. Even with Hadley, even whether he wants to believe it or not, he has his colleagues like revere him, and I feel like there's a lot of self-sabotage at play where like they kind of get in their own way. A lot of the characters get in their own way with the actions and the things that they do, and if they didn't get out of it,
Yeah,
if they didn't get in their own way, they would be fine.
I agree. I agree. There's again and again, Hadley gets in his own way. He, there are lots of ways to go about doing the things that, but the difference with Hadley, what I thought was he's trying to hold on to something that used to be, that it's this ephemeral thing, this respect, this, um, the book that he wrote came out 20 years ago. It's not, um, it's not where historians are today, and I think that was I really think that was a wonderful part of the drawing of that character. The other characters, their future is ahead of them. They want things and they're going after things. She's going after a doctorate degree. Rhodes wants to be a tenured professor at this, a published tenured professor at this university. What does Hadley want? What's left? What's what's left is what's missing, as somebody to love, somebody to, or the ability. He's ignored people for so long now that he doesn't know how to interact with people anymore. It's not he doesn't know how to have fun at a party or
That was great. That was great. Just that whole like how he was and everybody else was. But let me ask this, because maybe you disagree with me. The only reason why I say so many of these characters get in their own way is, we have Hadley, right? He's jealous of the affections that the student has for one of his colleagues. But he has someone in his life. We're looking closely. He has someone in his life that he had history with, that he kind of like messed up, and it still could have amounted to something. One of his colleagues that, like, I mean, it's alluded to that is there, and that it would have amounted to something had he not like kept doing things to self-sabotage himself. Even within the movie,
How did
opportunities to rekindle that.
how did that end? She was there. She was available.
And she still
She would have
cared.
been
Like,
a friend, she would have been a human, and who knows how much else, might have been there. But we'll never know because because you're right. He shoots himself in the foot every single
the only
time.
reason why I'm saying this, I'm thinking of the bar scene where she's kind of like having a heart to heart with him, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? And she's like throwing the olive branch, and he's like completely, he's like completely self-sabotaging. I was like,
But but it's great. I mean, it's great. It's great writing because it could happen.
yeah,
She's
bro.
she's she seems available to something, and Christ, does he ever need something? Somebody to talk to, somebody to be with, you know. But he has an ego, and he has
Yeah, I was gonna say, even
you know.
with his colleagues, like she's still like, even despite everything that Hadley does. Now I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything here, but she's involved with nearly every part of his life, of even checking in on like his parent, like his dad, and all that stuff, and checking in, and I'm like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? I'm like, get out of your way. But okay, I'm sorry. I'm stop venting.
That's
Like,
okay. I I I I also I liked working with Miles. I mean,
yes, yes,
the the idea that he wrote it, directed it, and starred in it
yeah.
is too. It's I can't even wrap my head around
And your first go
how
around,
much
nonetheless. Yeah, first go around too. So
the that you know I have tremendous respect for that.
yes.
Someone who writes a movie, gets the money up, casts them.
All right. Lost him briefly there for a moment. And give us 1 second here, folks. So Sadler there just for a moment. All right, folks. While we're getting Mr. Sadler, back with us just to wrap up. Thank you guys so much, for checking out this live conversation, talking about the indie film, The Historian. Um, as you guys well know, just to kind of give you just like a preview of what's to come. Of course, tomorrow we will have This Week in Pop Culture, in which we'll be talking about some things that have happened over the past week in pop culture, and uh, we'll also have a lot of goings on with the Travel and Adventure Show, which will be happening this weekend, which should be a lot of fun. All right, so let me see if I have Mr. Sadler back. Moment to get back on just to wrap up. And also, just to give you guys a preview, guys, there will be some more anniversaries that will be coming up as well. Some anniversary shows, if you will, celebrating anniversaries of some terrific films, whether they are indie films, big budget blockbusters. We're going to run the gamut, but we will have some terrific guests on tap to reflect with us on those said films. So stay tuned, as we will have, just as we do now, with some other films, some anniversary shows celebrating those said films and the folks behind them. All right, so looks like we still had a issue there. So tell you what, we're going to wrap it up, guys. I do want to thank Mr. William Sadler for once again hopping on and talking about the indie film, The Historian. And I'm your host, Brandon Choi, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see you soon. Hold on. Oh, maybe we got him back. Let's see here. Have him wrap up for us. Hey, well, I'm here, Mr. Sadler. So I just wanted to be able to wrap up with the last two things. You teased it just now of our show. You talked about what you're most proud of. You commented on Miles just a moment ago, but even outside of that, just overall, just reflecting on the film altogether, it being 10 years, being a decade. Are there some other components of it too that you are, extremely proud of?
I don't get an opportunity very often to commit to a character that fully.
Yes.
That is this interesting. I've played a lot of killers and villains and comic book, the Marvel characters and so on.
Sure.
And you commit to those as well. But these human stories, people with all their flaws are so rewarding and so interesting to me, that I think that's the thing I'm the most proud of. It was one of the very first times that someone cast me outside of the world of a cold-blooded murderer.
Right. Sure, absolutely.
So, hey, I'm gonna have to jump.
Okay, all right. Well, before I let you go, can you tell folks where they can find you before I let you go?
They can find me at they can find me on YouTube or
Yes.
X
Yes.
at WM_Sadler.
Cool.
And they can find me on Facebook. if you look up William Sadler on Facebook, he's there. I know because I've seen him. And I also have an album. I've written songs,
Yes.
and I put out an album called William Sadler, The Kitchen Tapes. And if you're interested, the money goes to St. Jude, but they're original songs, and they're funny and they're sweet. And I'm very proud of that album. The Kitchen Tapes, William Sadler, The Kitchen Tapes. And you can go to the real WilliamSadler.com, and there's a link that will send you to Bandcamp, and you can buy one of these albums, or a download, or a CD, or whatever. You can buy the vinyl. But like I said, the money goes to St. Jude's research for children's cancer. So I'm proud of that too.
Awesome. Well, there you guys have it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be